Well, one of the top 5 teams in the country had a mission today to look like the number 3 ranked team in America, and I certainly think that Ohio State pulled that off. It wasn't a perfect game, but this was probably as good as the Buckeyes looked all year, and we can't wait to get into it with you. 41-7, the final in West Lafayette, Ohio State over Purdue. We will break it down for you next on our instant analysis show right here on Buckeye Breakdown.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All-Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to Ross Ade Stadium, which has occasionally been a horror house for the Buckeyes, where they have lost some games here that have just lived in Ohio State minds for a long time. They've also had some pretty fun moments here over the years, that's for sure. Holy Buckeye comes to mind. Ultimately, Ohio State today took care of things in really impressive fashion. Dare I even say bloodbath. Now, against a Purdue team that wasn't necessarily at full strength, but boy, this certainly looked the part for the first time in a little while. I'm Brendan Gulick along with Anthony Moeglin. Thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit here at Purdue. We'd love to have you as part of the show regularly. And if you subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit the notification bell, then you'll know when we go live. So that would be awesome if you could do that. And, of course, for all the latest news and info on the team, BuckeyesNow.com is your stop. That's the Fan Nation Network channel on the Sports Illustrated Media Group. I'm on site. Anthony's from home. Both watched a game today that was a pretty good performance. But, Anthony, I think the thing everybody is talking about still on Twitter at the moment, I saw it in person. You watched it on Peacock. How'd it go?
It was it was the first refreshing game of the year. Like the first time where you and I, even when we were texting kind of back and forth during the game, that it was like there was never a time, maybe once, and we'll get into it, that there was even just a head-scratching moment. But, like, the offense came out right away, like down a couple guys, right down the field, touchdown. Marvin Harrison looked great early. I think he had a couple drops there towards the end, but he looked great. Kyle McCord, his best game, in my opinion, up to this point from start to finish. And the defense is just the defense. They're so darn good. And it just was for the first time, watching this team, it felt like 4 quarters. They were the better team, wire to wire. And this is Ohio State football, and this is peaking at the right time.
Well, I appreciate the analysis because that's what we're here to do, to analyze the game. But I wondered your opinion on the Peacock broadcast. What did you think?
The Peacock broadcast, yeah. No, you definitely got the I got the short end of the stick being having to watch on Peacock. I think that, but there's a lot that went into it. They did a fine job. There was just a lot of things that weren't great. Andrew Siciliano's, I think, a little bit better as a TV host and a fill-in red zone guy. He struggled a little bit from a broadcast perspective. Kyle Rudolph, I grew up kind of watching him, kind of keeping the pulse on Notre Dame football. He's not your best play-by-play, color guy you've ever had. But overall, the experience was fine, I guess. But definitely a little bit more inconvenient than just flipping between Fox and ESPN to get to all the games.
Yeah, and I know a lot of folks are pretty upset about the game being on a streaming service. I don't know if that's going to be the exclusive future or not, but that can be a debate for another day. Ultimately, I'm sure fans that wanted to watch the game found a way to do it. Not many of them were here. The crowd here was about 57,000, I think they announced. And I would say at least 15,000 of them left at halftime when Purdue was getting smoked and the rain started. This was a pretty darn impressive performance from the Buckeyes, where Purdue, I mean, obviously the special teams mistakes were obvious. Their punt team today was not very good. Their field goal unit was even worse. They left points on the field for sure. In fact, the jokes were that there were 2 different kicking competitions with students that were sponsored during TV timeouts, and the kids combined went 3 of 4, which was more than what we saw from the Purdue kickers, including a 40-yarder, by the way.
I was going to say, this is a legit question because there was a text that got sent from a friend of mine that there was a 40-yard kick made by a student at halftime. Is that true, or is that a true thing?
Confirmed, not fake news. Yeah, and I mean, look, you're having a little fun with it because Purdue had a pretty tough day. I understand that Purdue was shorthanded, not trying to take anything away from the guys that were trying, but that was not a very good football team. And, we talked about it a little bit this week that Ohio State needed to come out and start fast. And gosh, did they start fast. They gave up a little bit on their first 4 plays. It was like 39 yards total allowed in the first 4 plays. And then Purdue didn't have another 39 scrimmage yards for the next 5.5 drives. The defense was terrific. And, ultimately it wasn't a perfect day from Kyle McCord. Purdue's defense is not that bad. They're okay. And I think Ohio State had to work for it a little bit. But a really good effort, probably the best day we've seen from Ohio State's offensive line thus far. I really thought the offensive line lived up to their end of the deal. And, Ohio State obviously had some problems at running back. When you go into a game where Travion Henderson is not available, Mayan Williams is not available, you lose Chip Trainum in the middle of the game. That stinks. It's a frustrating thing. It looks like Anthony's picture is faded out there, so we'll continue here solo until he gets back. I hope Chip Trainum is okay. Ryan Day, talked post game about, hey, look, we're obviously not at full strength. It's a little frustrating when you think you've got a good thing going, and then all of a sudden it feels like doomsday scenario and you're down 3 running backs. He had spoken about Dallin Hayden this week as Anthony rejoins us here. He had spoken about Dallin Hayden this week as the guy that you kind of don't want to burn his red shirt potentially this year. Keep that extra year of eligibility if you can. And ultimately, Dallin Hayden was thrust into action. And Anthony, he was ready to rock, and he performed really well.
I'll tell you what, it was a different pace watching him run the ball. 11 carries, 76 yards, and a touchdown. But we've talked the combination and the difference between Travion Henderson and Chip Trainum and Mayan Williams, and each of them bring a little bit of their own spice to the table. But I thought Dallin Hayden was elusive. He is very, very just explosive. He gets from 0 to 100 in 2 steps. And it was really impressive to watch. And then he finishes runs, man. He'll run right through you and then also run around you. That was very impressive from my perspective. And I can understand why you want to keep that in the box and redshirt him until there's more carries for him per game. But man, oh man, was I impressed with what he put on the field today.
Anthony, I think you and I will continue our coverage when we get home, because you sound like you're on the moon, my friend.
Oh, no.
It is quite an audio stream. It's in and out a little bit, but we'll wrap here. I'll just finish with some solo thoughts because I think your audio was a little hard to follow there. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, Dallin Hayden was terrific. The offensive line absolutely did its job. I thought Tommy Eichenberg had a better game today. Cody Simon really shined brightly, in my opinion. I was really, really impressed with the way Cody Simon played. I don't know that I'm ready to say, okay, I'm done with Steele Chambers playing. I think Steele's still a solid linebacker, but Cody's been impressive, and I think he's earned the right to be on the field more. Ohio State's secondary stepped up in a big way today. They didn't get gashed on too many big plays. They still didn't allow a play of more than 40 yards, although they did give up a couple that were in the 20s, and I think they had a 35-yard pass they allowed at one point. So again, I don't want to overplay this, right? This isn't a perfect game from Ohio State, but it was the kind of performance that you want to see from a team ranked as high as they are, who's had the chance to knock some rust off because, the bye is behind them. They've already played a good Notre Dame team. You played well enough last week to get a good win over Maryland. This was the lopsided win in conference play that I think fans are looking for. You want to go see that you can bury a team. And again, I understand Purdue wasn't at full strength, but Ohio State made it look like they were the bully and they played like it from start to finish. It was an impressive performance the way they went about that. So a good effort on a day where they had 500 yards of total offense. Got a lot of contributions. Again, if you're joining us just a little bit late here, Ryan Day did not give any injury updates post-game. He's not going to say anything unless there is something so definitive that a guy would be, out for the season kind of thing. He might allude to that, but Ohio State just doesn't really talk about injuries. Obviously, it was a little startling in the stadium when Chip Traynham got rocked and got back up and called for a sub, and as he's running off the field, he gets woozy and falls over. That was tough. That was a really tough scene. So I hope he's okay. I don't want to speculate how bad that was, but it certainly didn't look good. And I'm glad Dallin was ready to go when he got his chance. Not surprised Xavier Johnson got some carries. That was good too. And to the point Anthony made at the beginning of the show, frankly, a pretty darn good performance from Kyle. Missed a couple throws, but mostly balls that were where receivers should catch them, and there were more drops today than usual. Marvin looked like a superhuman again, especially early on. It was an impressive day. So Ohio State 41 and Purdue 7. Anthony is he's still here visually, but I don't know if we can hear him, and that's why I kept rambling there to give you some context post-game. I'm looking forward to doing our What We Learned show on Sunday at some point, and I'm hopeful that this is a team that can get fully healthy as they get ready for a big Penn State game coming up next week. All right, so we'll wrap things up from there. Ross Ade Stadium with fabulous cellular technology. We love that. But in the meantime, thanks for joining us. All the latest news and info is over on BuckeyesNow.com, so check that out for all your latest post-game content. And we'll see you again real soon here on the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast.